And so one of the things, really the core principle of the platform that I've built is economic growth. The second point is individual freedom, and the last one is security. So focusing predominantly on economic growth. What is the one national issue that everybody in this room is going to hit every single day of their lives? I mean, we could talk for hours about all this stuff that's going on at the national level, but the one factor, whether you're Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter, is going to be the economy. Do I have a job today? Am I going to get a raise today? Is my savings safe? Are my investments doing well? Am I going to be able to retire with dignity? Can I send my kids to college? And heck, maybe even save a few bucks to go on vacation and bring that money right here to Central Florida. So economic growth is a really big pillar of the decisions that I'd like to take up to Washington. Keeping taxes low. Letting business owners decide for themselves how best to run their companies. Which brings me into the second point, which is individual freedom. Ronald Reagan said the 10 most dangerous words in the English language is, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." I love that quote. In fact, it's up on the website. It's so true. It is so true. Who needs Washington coming down to St. Cloud or Kissimmee or Lake Alfred or any other of the communities in our district and telling them how to run their show? We don't need that. We don't need that. So Glenda was asking the other candidates, what's the thing that you want to take up to DC and really make a change in? If that's something that I'm going to pick, that's going to be my biggest issue. Just keep Washington out of your life as much as we can possibly do that.
Yeah.
Now, there are, of course, always going to be those national issues where they're just better handled on a national level, but the businesses and how we run our communities, how we manage our personal, just that stuff needs to stay in Washington. The last point that I want to talk about is security, right? Talk about individual security, so personal security. So we're talking about supporting law enforcement, supporting Second Amendment rights. I think all the guys that come up here are going to tell you they're big supporters of the Second Amendment. But again, the biggest thing we can do on the national level is just keep them out of it. Keep them out of it. Why can't the state of Florida handle that? Right? That's where we have the most say and the most pull anyway, is right here at home. We don't need Washington reaching down here and telling us how to do that. And then the other security point that I want to talk about is economic security. So one of the ways that we've really built up the economy of late is we make foreign investments. We encourage people to go out there and invest in other nations, get those products in, we send those products out. We've got to secure those trade routes. We've got to secure our partners in Israel, in the Middle East. Those guys are a stabilizing factor in that whole area and produce a large chunk of the money that comes into the country. We've got to support those guys and keep those things rolling. Supporting the military is a fundamental aspect of making sure that happens. So those are the three core pillars. I saw a really funny quote the other day. It's another Ronald Reagan quote. It says, "Socialism has only worked in two places. One is in heaven where they don't need it, and the second one's in hell because they have it." So I thought that was pretty appropriate, and it's kind of going to be a mantra that I can take up to DC and just let the colleagues up there know. We're like, guys, we don't need it. We've been doing just fine for centuries on a free market approach, and that's the way we need to keep running. That's the way we're going to keep the country strong. That's the way we're going to keep the economy strong, and that's the way we keep our individual homes strong. Okay. Now, it's been suggested that our district's going to be hard to flip because of the Hispanic and Latin community. I respectfully disagree with that. Our Puerto Rican and Latin folks, they vote values. They vote values, and a large portion of them are registered as independents, right? And what do we really need? We're talking about 8% of the electorate that needs to come over to the red side. If we stick to an economic message, how am I going to make sure that your home prospers? How am I going to make sure that your savings stays strong, that you have opportunities for increased employment? Those things speak to every single family in our district. And if we can make that connection, we'll get that 8%. And we'll flip the seat. And of course, the state of the Democrat Party is only helping us, right? So it doesn't really matter who gets the nomination, whether it's Bernie or Biden. A part of their base isn't going to show up anyway. But we're not counting on that. We're going to go out and do the legwork anyway. And speaking of legwork, that's what I've been doing. I've been going out to the local chambers of commerce and getting in front of business leaders. What do you need to make your businesses stronger for the next 10 to 15 years? Common sense conversations. And would you believe that our congressional office has not done that? I'm sure that doesn't surprise many people in here. Our own county commissioners, you talk to any of them, Talk to any of them. Infrastructure is a common problem, doesn't matter where you are in the district. Would you believe they have no relationship with the congressional office? How is that possible? How is that possible? But 90% of that job is just being a liaison between your local leaders and federal resources. Come on, we gotta make that happen. There's no reason why that can't happen. Right? So those are some of the things that I've been getting out there doing, beating the bushes, getting in front of those business leaders, understanding what they need to continue to grow, and then taking that message not only to state leadership, but up to national leadership. I think that about burns my time. I got 2 minutes? I got 2 minutes. So if anybody has any questions, I'd certainly be happy to answer them. I might have stolen Glenda's thunder already because I answered that one.
How many regulations are you going to get rid of?
How many you want me to get rid of? All of them?
All of them.
Yeah, damn right.
Obviously you're never going to be able to get rid of every regulation, but I love where Trump's head is at. For every one he puts in, he kills 4. Right? That seems like a good policy about getting government out of your life to the extent possible. We always have to create a framework. The proper role of government, create a framework within which people can manage their own affairs and strive and thrive, right? And if you do those 2 things, you get the American dream. But having government fill in that framework, trying to control how you get those goals accomplished, it's overstepping. It's overstepping. Let's focus on building a solid framework with regulations that we need and just kill the rest.
How you gonna get Clapper and Comey and all them others in jail?
In jail. So it doesn't matter what policy you're talking about. If you're seeing the law being broken, whether it's through corruption or whatever other crime, you need to be held accountable for it. Accountability.
Yeah.
When did we stop being held accountable for individual actions in this country? Right? I don't know. But we need to get back to that policy. Individual accountability. It's a fundamental principle that we've been founded on. And that needs to come back. It needs to come back. All right, I think that about does it. Guys, if I haven't had a chance to say hi to you, please come and see me. I'd love to shake your hand, throw a card at you, and see how we can work together to take the district.
All right.